Good morning, and welcome to the August 22nd Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. My name is John Motter. I'm a member of this church and also on its worship committee. A UU congregation is a place for all souls, all ages, genders, loves, colors, abilities, struggles, education, beliefs, questions, and hopes. Our congregations are devoted to promoting spiritual growth and a caring community, learning from all peoples and from our own life experiences. I want us to think about some of the events that have occurred in the past week, since there are many people throughout our world that need to be held tightly in our thoughts. The terrible earthquake in Haiti that has left thousands dead and even more without a roof over their head. The people of Afghanistan that are entering an unknown period of change due to the withdrawal of U.S. troops and the internal collapse of their government. The fear of what the Taliban may do weighs heavy on our thoughts. And then we have the pandemic surge here in the U.S., and specifically in our local community. I hope that hospitalizations and deaths can be minimized, but I fear that we might be well beyond the opportunity to make a big difference. And so, I just hope that suffering can be minimized for so many people in our community. A couple of things to note about viewing our services on YouTube. Closed captioning is available on most devices and operating systems. You'll find the CC icon on the lower right portion of your screen. If you are watching the premiere live, then you can use the chat feature in the window next to the video. If you are viewing it at a later time, you can still read the chat transcript by clicking on the Show Chat Replay button to the right of the video. Today's service focuses on community. With all that is happening in our world today, it can feel truly discouraging. However, we have made it through 18 months of this pandemic by working together as a community. I know that we can hold on a while longer and come out of it as an even stronger and closer congregation. I know this for a fact because all of you have lifted myself, my family, and each other up over and over again during the nearly 4 years that I've attended UUSP. I hope that all of you watching will find something that helps you grow spiritually, both individually and as a member of the greater community. Your presence is needed and wanted as we work towards building a blessed community. Finally, I'd like to thank John and James for the music and video editing, Ariana Drew and Bill Motter for their readings this morning. And now, Ariana with our chalice lighting and covenant.
Good morning. I'm Ariana Drew. I'm a member of this church and I'm happy you are with us this morning. The flaming chalice is a symbol of hope, the sacred, the quest for truth, the warmth of community, the light of reason, and more. We say our covenant along with the chalice lighting to create a reverent space for reflection, prayer, or meditation and singing. Please join us in reciting the covenant. Love is the spirit of this church and service its law. This is our great covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now, the invocation.
This morning's invocation, entitled Today We Return to the Shelter of Each Other, was written by Reverend Scott Taylor. Today we return to the shelter of each other, to arms that hold us in the midst of the storm, to voices that help us hear our own, to hearts that accept us for who we are. May we be for each other a source of safety and sending. May we offer each other both comfort and challenge. May this place of peace lead us to share peace with others. Let us begin. And now we'll listen to a story about Farmer Chin and his community, entitled Maybe Yes, Maybe No, followed by the song Whatever Comes Next. Think about the type of community Farmer Chin lives in. Are they supportive? Do they gossip more than support? Would you want to live in that community? What things might you do to improve the community? I hope you enjoy it.
Let me tell you about Farmer Chin. Farmer Chin had a pretty typical life. He had his acres and his harvest to tend to. He had his animals and his family to help with the tasks. He also had neighbors who would sometimes visit and bring dumplings and their opinions. One day, Farmer Chin's strongest, most beautiful horse ran away, and the neighbors came immediately to express their sorrow for Farmer Chin having lost one of his most valuable possessions. And they asked him if he wasn't just sad as he could be about that change of fortune. After all, losing value is a horrible thing to experience. Farmer Chin's response was, maybe yes, maybe no. The following day, that horse returned with 10 other wild horses, equally beautiful, equally strong, adding to Farmer Chin's stables. And the neighbors came running, celebrating, saying how wonderful it was that he now had all of these additional horses. Farmer Chin's response was, maybe yes, maybe no. The next day, his oldest child, who was to be the heir to the farm, the child who showed the most interest in inheriting this land and this responsibility, was taming the horses, or trying to, and their leg was broken in the process. And the neighbors came running once again to lament this change of fortune, saying how disappointed Farmer Chin must be that his child would now grow up, possibly with a limp for the rest of their lives. Isn't that just a sorrowful, sad state of affairs? Farmer Chin said, maybe yes, maybe no. A week later, an announcement went throughout the kingdom that war was at hand, and that the young, strong, able-bodied children would be conscripted into the army and into the service of the kingdom. But Farmer Chin's child wasn't able to go because their leg had just been broken. And the neighbors came running with the dumplings and the opinions, saying how wonderful it was. What a relief it must be to Farmer Chin that his child would not have to go and fight in the war. And Farmer Chin responded, I bet you can guess. Maybe yes, maybe no. This story reminds us that we always have the choice to remain open, to embrace all the possibilities in a situation when we might be tempted to immediately assume that something is a tragedy or even a great boon, that we might take a second, reevaluate the situation, and see how it unfolds. And you know, that story inspired me to write this song. The journey isn't over. The race is far from run. The story isn't written. The game's just begun. Each day is a new day. Every day is a new day. Who knows what comes next? If tragedy calls you, you can let the thing unfold. Each day is a new day, every day is a new day. Who knows what comes next? This might be the best day you ever had. The truth is, no day is really good or bad. Might be the path that you've chosen, might be the last one you would. Things might be getting so crazy, you would laugh if you could. Slide on through it with grace, open your heart and embrace whatever comes next. Slide into it with grace, open your heart and embrace whatever comes next. Whatever comes next.
And now it's time for announcements and joys and concern. Our social justice group looks after 2 Congolese families that sought asylum here in the U.S. One of the families is in real need of an automobile. Does anyone in the congregation know of a car that could be donated to UU St. Pete? The donor would receive a tax deduction for a charitable donation, and we would make the car available to Santa's family. A gift like this would mean so much to Santa and her children, and we could feel as if we had helped their family in a really big way. Please email Barbara Archibald at archibaldmail@gmail.com for more information. And thank you. Please be sure to check out the UU St. Pete Weekly for other announcements of the many things happening at church. We had no joys and concerns emailed to us. However, I definitely want to send a concern out for Reverend Ben and hope that he recovers from his breakthrough COVID quickly and without much trouble. If you have joys and concerns, now you can type them in the comments section on the YouTube channel. Thanks so much.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Our first reading, Heart of Faith, written by Reverend Monica Jacobson Tennyson, an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister currently living in Washington State. What is it that calls you here? that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. And now John and James with the anthem.
Let our hearts not be hardened to those living on the margins. There is room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. Oh, too long we have wandered, burdened and undone, but there is room at the table for everyone. This is how it all begins. Let us sing the new world in. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, there is room at the table for everyone. Here and now we can be the beloved community. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. Let our hearts not be hardened to those living on the margins. There is room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room at the table for everyone.
Our second reading is an excerpt from The Grout, an essay by Marcus Hardliff, an intern minister at the UU Church of Berkeley. Grout, the chalky, gritty stuff that is squeezed between the cracks of tiles. In the mosaic, the grout holds the image together, unifying disparate pieces into a whole. The grout of a community takes years to lay and settle. Grout happens in board meetings and committee meetings and endless emails and slow-moving institutions. It is in weekly potlucks shared by neighbors, a ride to church, and coffee in the social hall after worship. While the folks who show up for church only on Christmas and Easter will hopefully enjoy the beauty of the mosaic they find, they may never know the power of the grout that holds us through all the seasons of life. We help to make the grout when we learn each other's names and when we reach out across generational divides. We help to make the grout when we show up on Sunday morning without having first checked to see if we're interested in a sermon topic. When a newborn arrives to be blessed by the community, it is the grout that enables us to welcome them. And it is the grout that we rest when we gather to grieve and memorialize a beloved one who has died. Hold us, O grout. Gather us in through time and space and make all our broken pieces whole in community. In our multiplicity, make us one. from each of our jagged edges, give us the shape of communal beauty. And now, had this been Reverend Ben, he would say, and now is John with his reflection on community, and that John being me. Here we are, a year and a half into this dang pandemic. A year and a half of social distancing, virtual services, Zoom meetings, and more. And only a month before in-person services start up again. September 19th is just around the corner, and it's going to be such a celebration. Until Delta variant. A governor unwilling to implement a mask mandate, school districts banned from protecting students, headlines about ICUs being at capacity, and so the hard decision is made by the board for the safety of the congregation. September 19th will not be the date for resuming in-person services at the church. I just want things to be like they were before COVID. I have every right to be depressed about this, and yet I'm not. Sure, it is a bit of a letdown, but let me look at the glass half full for a change. The church has helped to sustain me over these last 18 months. Yes, I am part of a church community that has held me up when it would have been easy to lay down and give up. If you are a member of this church, then I hope you realize what a gift you have to share and the gift being shared with you. And if you're a visitor, just know that if someone says, "Let me know if I can help," they aren't just saying it to be nice. I tested all of you in the first year I was here. A fractured back, 2 surgeries on my knee, a month in the hospital, weeks at a rehabilitation center, and weeks of IV therapy didn't scare you away. You sent cards, you called, you visited. You were absolutely phenomenal. A quick story about Roy Price. When I was doing the second series of infusions for my knee, Roy would come in for treatment about the time I was finishing mine. He always had a little something to say that would bring a smile to my face and make my day feel a little lighter. Roy is such a good spirit that he even managed to bring a smile to my face at his celebration of life. It was the first that I'd been around so many UUs since the pandemic. It was a beautiful day at Fort DeSoto, and a band of about a dozen trombone players serenaded us. That's the perfect picture of community honoring one of its own. Christmas Eve of 2019 was a terrible day. Mom, Bill, and I made up 3/4 of the greeters for the evening service, but Mom fell that afternoon and shattered her femur. Bill went to the hospital with Mom, and I went to church. It's all kind of a blur, but I know that I sat there and felt supported. And then you all sent cards, signed up to visit Mom at Menorah Manor, and then brought nightly meals for the first week she was home. And when COVID made itself known, we had to isolate. But we didn't really isolate. We created community as best we could. We did virtual services on YouTube and Zoom coffee hours. We did walk and wave tours, Zoom cooking classes, what are you watching and book discussions, and virtual covenant group meetings. We didn't let it ruin the bond that we all share. For me, I think it's strengthened my commitment. I learned more about people because every encounter was done with intention. Each person has a platform to share from during our coffee hours. I now know that Joanne loves music and often goes to the symphony with her mom. And I felt Barbara's disappointment when she had to cancel a trip to see her 2 granddaughters' bat mitzvahs. It doesn't seem like much, but it's what communities do. They share the mundane, the triumphs, the tragedies. Indeed, I miss the people in our congregation that aren't able to join in the virtual activities. I wonder what they are doing or how they are coping. Do they feel isolated? How do I support them? How can I include them? I know I have continuing opportunities to be intentional. Do you have similar opportunities?
To keep our congregation thriving, let's remember our connections to one another and not forget our offerings to support the means to those connections. As we listen to our brief offering music, please click on the eye in the upper right-hand corner of your screen to make a contribution. You can also donate through the Gift Plus app via our webpage under the Giving tab, or by sending a check to the church office. Thank you.
And now, as our service ends with a breath, we pass the flame of our chalice lamp to each other as we say together, we extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world.
Feel the warmth and good energy of this community. Carry these with you as you move on from our time together. Find places and people in the world where warmth and energy is lacking. Have the courage to share these things. And then keep your heart open so that you can replenish your warmth and energy from those people you encounter on your journey. Speaking of good energy and warmth and kindness, I just want to thank everybody that's helped in any way as my mom's been recovering from her broken pelvis. You've made phone calls, sent cards, dropped off meals. We simply could not have done it without your help. I want to thank you all for coming together this morning. Please stay safe and well through the week. We hope you can join us right after the service for Zoom coffee hour. The meeting information will be shown on your screen shortly. Take care.